This game was massive for my own fantasy football matchup because I actually have T. Higgins on my team. I streamed Aaron Rodgers because I have Josh Allen. I have DK Metcalf. I had to play against Chase Brown, and my league mate was so down that they had to actually play Kenneth Gainwell against me, RIP. So I was very much stressing this game, and the Unk Bowl came through and delivered for us in a big time way. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go through, we'll talk about everything. Obviously, Jamar Chase needs to be moving up our rankings here. But let's go ahead and let's go offense by offense. Starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Aaron Rodgers was a super compelling streamer. We talked about this in the waiver wire video that this was going to be the guy I was streaming with no Josh Allen. I kind of think it would be a good idea as well if you had no Lamar to stream him, mainly because this was the perfect matchup, right? You're going up against Cincinnati, which realistically has one of the worst defenses in the league, especially if you look at the fact they had no Trey Hendrickson in this game. So it was a perfect prime spot for Rodgers. The projections liked him. I think you had an implied team total of about like 25.5 points here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A super easy spot to just go ahead and play him. Then looking over, actually, do we need to talk about Rodgers in the future? Like, don't ever start this dude. Okay. Like I picked him up for 1 week. I'm going to immediately drop Aaron Rodgers once Josh Allen comes back. I would advise you to do the same. He has no rushing upside, and not every matchup's going to be this good. Now, going over and looking at what we have at running back, Jaylen Warren does really play well. Like Kenneth Gainwell, if y'all remember, had a game earlier this season in Europe where he had a better performance than I had ever seen from Jaylen Warren his entire time at Pittsburgh. But if you look at the overall setup here, despite this being a back and forth game, you actually had Cincinnati up 17-10 at half. The usage of Jaylen Warren was very compelling. Like Jaylen Warren went through 16 carries in comparison to Kenneth Gainwell at 3. Jaylen Warren, 127 receiving yards. And if you look back at what we had last week, you actually had Kenneth Gainwell as the receiving back in this offense. But Jaylen Warren here, he was out on the field like pretty much every single time you looked up, and he had 4 receptions. He had 31 receiving yards. So Jaylen Warren gave you 20 total opportunities, 150 total yards. Kenneth Gainwell really looked like a non-factor. So realistically, I think we need to take a look at where we had Jaylen Warren in our rest of season ranks, and he probably needs to move up. We had Jaylen Warren as our running back 25. Now, if I'm looking at where we move him from here, like realistically, I would rather have Jaylen Warren over Rico Dowdle. And honestly, I'd rather have him over Kenneth Walker as well. Like if you could trade Kenneth Walker for Jaylen Warren at this point, I think you just have to do it. So I'm going to move Jaylen Warren up to our running back 23 in our rest of season rankings. And again, these are our rest of season rankings. For the love of God, do not think these are our week 7 rankings. Now, let's move over to what we have with our next pass catcher, which is going to be Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth was not interesting for me coming into this game because you actually have too many tight ends getting involved in Pittsburgh. And I never want to be starting a tight end that's in a tight end by committee. But Pat Freiermuth in this contest has 2 receiving touchdowns, 5 receptions, 111 receiving yards. Looks like Dallas Goedert from last Thursday. But, I mean, obviously, Pat Freiermuth actually gives you the big play. But am I going to all of a sudden change my mind with Pat Freiermuth and tell you that he's a must-start tight end, blah, blah? No. Like, I don't see in what world you could ever say that he is, because you go through and you look at the usage that we had from the tight ends today. 6 targets to Freiermuth. I mean, Jonnu Smith had 6 targets. He was the guy that had the receiving touchdown right at the beginning of the game. And Darnell Washington's still out there like crazy. Darnell Washington had 5 targets. So I would love to sit here and say like, oh yeah, if you're desperate for a tight end, go pick up Pat Freiermuth. The thing is, you're going to pick up Pat Freiermuth, put him in your starting lineup, and you're going to get 3 points next week, and Darnell Washington's going to be the only guy to score here. So, super exciting if you have Pat Freiermuth in like an underdog best ball draft, but for your regular fantasy football team, I'm not interested. And thank God that I'm already such a heavy favorite in my matchup this week. This is a super important matchup for me. I mean, I'm currently sitting at 5-1. I am second in my league because Sal has more points than I do. So, and he's also 5-1, but he had to play against Jamar Chase. So realistically, it looks like the only other 5-1 team in my league is going to be losing, falling to 5-2. It looks like I'm going to be winning, moving to 6-1. So I want to win this week more than anything. The amount of trash talk I can do if I am the leading team in this league yet again will be historic. So DK Metcalf, I mean, man, I would like to get something from you. Like I had DK, I put you in the starting lineup over T. Higgins. And in a game in which Aaron Rodgers has 4 passing touchdowns, DK Metcalf gives us 8 fantasy points. So super frustrating. I'm not the biggest Metcalf guy. Again, the touchdown rate was very unsustainable, which is why we've had Metcalf in a sell high video, which is why I try to sell DK Metcalf myself in the Flock League. But I have him at wide receiver 18 in our rest of season ranks. In reality, if you offered me Zay Flowers, Mike Evans for Metcalf, I'd probably take him. I think we're going to have Metcalf at wide receiver 20. Now, here's the thing. These D-tier wide receivers, they're all the same. It's up to you. It's up to personal preference. Obviously, you can say, oh, points per game wise, Debo and Garrett Wilson will be a lot better than a lot of these other guys. Like, oh, okay, well, who's healthy right now? So we don't even have to get in an argument with that. But D-tier, you order them in whatever way that you want. I think Metcalf probably has to slide back a bit. Coming into this game, he was averaging 14.4 fantasy points, which is higher than any other wide receiver that you're seeing on the screen here outside of like Garrett Wilson, who obviously is going to be missing a significant amount of time now. So Metcalf still has had a fine season so far. It's been unsustainable with his touchdown rate, which is the main thing that I've been concerned about. But like for me, with my own team, I'm probably still starting DK Metcalf next week. Now, let's load up the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think there's anything else to talk about in Pittsburgh. And yes, I sat T. Higgins, and it is painful for me to say that out loud because Higgins was great, but it's going to take me 1 second to pull this up. And as I do this, I want to say, of course, shout out to Underdog Fantasy, currently the #1 app on the App Store among all sports apps. I've been checking this pretty much every day, and they just stay at 1. If y'all aren't already on Underdog, I mean, you could have gone with Jamar like higher than 64 net receiving yards this game if you were smart. I'm not smart, so I didn't do that. But yeah, you can check out Underdog Fantasy whenever you want. If you sign up with code FLOCK, you're going to get a free pick for the Sunday games. And on top of that, you will get a $100 bonus added to your account after you play your first 5. Underdog Fantasy, in my opinion, the best sports app. It's available in almost every single state. They have the best promos. Code FLOCK will get you a free pick. It'll give you $100 added to your account after you play your first 5 and free questions for the live streams. So great app, available in almost every state. The best promos, which is why they are #1 on the App Store at the moment. Links in the description and comment section. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years. But let's move over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Dear God, Flacco looked like he was having the time of his life. Here's the difference between these two quarterbacks, and maybe I'm overreacting, but even at the beginning of the game, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers are leading. They're up like 7-0. Aaron Rodgers is kicking and screaming, losing his mind when the drive ends early. Like Rodgers looks like he is not having any fun whatsoever. Flacco looks like he's having himself a good time out there. Flacco looks like a much more fun guy to hang out with, for sure, or be a teammate of, for sure. But regardless, in terms of what we are doing with Joe Flacco from a fantasy perspective, is there anything that would make me want to start Flacco this? No. You're never starting Joe Flacco. Sure, I'd start him over Cam Ward, Bryce Young, Tua. So maybe we move Joe. I'd start him over Geno at this point. So maybe we move Flacco into like the E tier of quarterbacks. But the thing with Flacco is you have no rushing upside. So realistically, fantasy-wise, the only thing that's relevant is can he support the other cast of characters that you have in Cincy? Now, I was playing against Chase Brown this week. And if you would have told me, hey, Mason, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to put up, a very compelling 33 points. Chase Brown's going to go over 100 rushing yards. I would have lost my mind. I would have been like, oh, okay, are you kidding me? What, Chase Brown's dropping 25 points on my head? Chase Brown walks away with this game of like 12 fantasy points. Like, super, like, I know Chase Brown looked decent out there. Don't get me wrong. This offensive line looked much better than it had in the past. But does this make me super excited about Chase Brown, knowing that even when the Bengals drop 30, he's still going to give you 12 points? No, like I think Chase Brown's still in the E tier of running backs. I would way rather start him in the short term over Trevion Henderson, but it's like, hey, I don't know if they have the same upside in the long term. So Chase Brown, I'm not going to move in our rankings. Like, fine day, but P. Ryan's out there getting some involvement. Chase Brown still hasn't scored more than 12 points so far this season. Now, looking over to the wild card that may end up saving Cincinnati and may end up making this team in the fantasy football playoffs something to reckon with. Where if you have Jamar Chase, he goes back to being the number one overall player in fantasy. Where if you have T. Higgins, he goes back to being a week in and week out wide receiver one. As a report came out right before the game, Joe Burrow is on track for a midseason return. If Burrow were to come back, that's going to elevate everybody here. I know Flacco looked great in a Thursday night in-division game, but don't take too much away from it. Now, going over and looking at what we have with Jamar Chase. And yes, I know Chase Brown looked good. Obviously, he looked good. He had 100 rushing yards. He had 12 fantasy points. Y'all can get super excited about 12 fantasy points. Dear God, are y'all going to make me go on a little rant about Chase Brown here? Do y'all have the memory of a goldfish? Y'all see a player of a big run on TV and all of a sudden think like, oh, this guy's a must-start player in fantasy. Are y'all going to make me go on a rant? This is who you're getting excited about? This is who you're screaming at me about not having ranked as a must-start running back? The dude that we go week by week, he's scored 13.1, 8.5, 6, 10.1, 11.8, 8.9, 12. What? I understand. We just watched him play on TV and he looked good on the TV screen. Tell that to your fantasy app. Tell that to the points that are getting logged. The 1 in 5, hell, I'm playing against the Chase Brown owner today in my league. You know what the Chase Brown owner's record in my league is? He's 0-6. And he's about to be 0-7. And Chase Brown didn't help his ass on Thursday night. I'll tell you that much. Oh, look at the matchups. Look at the match. You think this is a Bijan Robinson situation from last year? You think the reason Chase Brown 10 yards per carry, he had 10 yards per carry in a single game. Coming into this game, the dude was averaging 2.7 yards per carry. Oh, cool. He had 100 rushing yards. What's just going to change his yards per carry? He's going to go from 2.7 to 3.1 on the season? Oh my gosh, people. Y'all literally the memory of a goldfish. Y'all see something on the TV screen and thinks everything changes. Oh, I should have titled this Everything's Changed. Chase Brown's a top 5 running back now, 10 yards per carry. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's move this over to something that actually matters. The player that had 23 targets. Okay. This is what matters. The player that's scoring points here. 23 targets, 16 receptions, 161 receiving yards. Would I rather have Jamar Chase or an injured Puka Nacua? I'd probably rather have Jamar Chase. I know everybody's going to lose their mind. We just saw Jamar Chase look very good on national television. I had him on my team last year, and if y'all remember, oh my gosh, in the live stream, I'll pull up the receipts. Y'all are making fun of me for having him as a top 10 wide receiver still after the Denver game. Like, speaking of y'all having a memory of the goldfish, like, Jamar Chase, he's back in the S tier of wide receivers. He was in the A tier for us previously. If you want to put him at 1, you put him at 1. I'm not going to argue with you. You want to put him at 4 behind Puka, put him at 4. I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to put him you put him anywhere that you want in the S tier. At the very minimum, he's a top 4 wide receiver. You can't make an argument to have London over him. You can't make an argument to have Jefferson over him. You can't make an argument to have Amon-Ra St. Brown over him at this point. I still think, like, hell, you're going to have much better quarterback play with CeeDee Lamb, with Puka Nacua, less competition with Jackson Smith-Njigba, more consistency that we've seen so far this season. So if you want to put Jamar at number 1 overall, I'm not going to fault you. Again, I'm not going to go and rage because of that. T. Higgins had 10 targets in this game. Obviously, Higgins could have had the extra receiving touchdown at the very end. He slides instead. I would have been losing my mind if I didn't have T. Higgins on the bench, but instead, I thought it was a good idea to put DK Metcalf in my starting lineup. But realistically, am I going to, like, all of a sudden with my team think, oh, T. Higgins is now a must-start wide receiver every week? I'm not going to. Like, T. Higgins versus Jordan Addison, now that we know that Flacco can elevate this offense. T. Higgins versus Keenan, now that we know Flacco can elevate this offense. I'll probably move T. Higgins up to, like, wide receiver 30. But inside the E tier of wide receivers, you can rank these guys in whatever order that you want. Again, T. Higgins will be moving up to about wide receiver 30 for us. We previously had him in F tier. I'm definitely very excited as somebody who had T. Higgins on their bench, just seeing that this offense can look decent with Jake Browning on the bench. But I don't think T. Higgins is a must-start wide receiver going into the future. Like, we'll see what realistically for my team, next week, I'm probably starting, I'd imagine, DK Metcalf over T. Higgins still, just based on the larger sample. Next week, depending on Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins is going to be tough depending on what Stephon Diggs does this week. If we get another Buffalo game, I'll probably have Diggs in my lineup. If we get another New Orleans game from Diggs, I'll probably put Higgins in, but we're going to go back and forth there. But yeah, so T. Higgins moves up to about wide receiver 30. I don't think he's a must-start name. I think he's a wide receiver 3. I think Chase Brown's still a low-end RB2 that you can play in a good matchup, but not an auto-start option. Season high, 13 fantasy points this year. We're 7 weeks into the season. And then with Jamar, he's an S-tier wide receiver that you can auto-lock. The Pittsburgh tight ends, again, there are too many of them. Good luck picking the right guy. Jaylen Warren does move up. Jaylen Warren very much looks startable. And then with the quarterbacks, neither one of them is going to run the ball. I streamed Rodgers myself this week because I had Allen on bye, but I think that's all we got here. And again, really appreciate y'all hanging out with us in this live stream. Please let me hear it in the comment section. Chase Brown, top 10 running back rest of season. He just scored 12 fantasy points. Give it up for him. He looked great. Those 0-6 teams, those 1-5 teams, maybe they have a chance to put up a season high 70 points this week and possibly, just possibly, not be the lowest scoring team in the league. But I really appreciate y'all and really hope I get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow when I'll be answering all your questions. And if you are a genius, I'm going to let you know one thing. I can almost guarantee you that the projections for Chase Brown next week, he will be lower than 80 yards. I can almost guarantee you they're going to have him like higher, lower 62 rushing yards. And if you think, oh, I'm a genius, Chase Brown's a hammer, by all means, go take advantage of it on Underdog Fantasy. Links in the description, links in the comment section. Code FLOCK will make it where you actually can win something, because you get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5 with code FLOCK. Underdog Fantasy is the #1 app on the App Store right now because they're available in almost every single state, while at the same time, it's a great app. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for 5 years. And at the same time, this is the biggest promo you're going to find. You'll get a free pick with code FLOCK. Plus, you'll get $100 after you play your first 5. Plus, you'll be able to send me questions in on the live streams we're doing every day. But appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen, and really hope we get to see you out with the live stream.